30%, a lot of those could be fixed if you do a commissioning, a solid commissioning program. It is a process that tests both individual components and the whole system together. We find a lot of them test individual components, but they never test it as a complete function. And some of it, when we talk commissioning, is the official beginning of the facility handoff to from the contractor and the designer to the maintenance and operations staff. And you need to have a commissioning agent, somebody that's responsible for ensuring commissioning is done, documenting commissioning, because the documentation for commissioning of the actual capacities and how things work is your baseline of what your building will produce and provide you in the future. So if you ever have to go back and say, well, what could we really get out of it? You go back to the commissioning documents, and that's what it'll tell you you can get from it. It's not only just for new data centers. Like we talked a minute ago, you start adding capacity components, 2 or 3 more generators. You need to commission those individual generators and then commission them as a totally integrated system. So anytime you have major installs or even major repairs, you should do commissioning. We recommend you hire an independent person for commissioning during the design phase, because they need to be part of the design to know what's going on. Most effective when you have a third-party, unbiased person doing that. Some people leave it up to the construction contractor to do commissioning. They're in a hurry, they're trying to finish the building to meet your schedule. They're going to do the minimum amount of commissioning necessary to get it done and get you to sign the final check so they can get out of it. Person needs to be responsible for directing and planning all the commissioning, scripting all the tests, gathering all the data, putting it all together at the end to compile the final commissioning document. We look at it, there's some disagreements on the number of levels of commissioning. We look at 5 different levels of commissioning. The first one's the factory test. When you go and they finish building your product, you go and watch them test it in the factory to see if it works. Then the second one is the receipt and installation of pre-functional test. This is when it gets there on site, you test it to make sure it still works and it didn't get damaged during construction. During transportation. Third one is functional testings, where you test the very basic operations of each component. Does the pump start? Does the compressor start? Do they stop? Those kind of things. Fourth level is system startup. This is original equipment manufacturer testing. This is when the factory reps come out on site, start running their equipment and testing it against their company standards, testing it and balancing things. Generally starts the warranty period is when during this time. And then the final one, that if you skip this one, you're going to pay for it someday. An integrated system operational test, full test of everything in the data center, everything working together, proves that each and every component works within the system as it's supposed to, and should be tested against all possible operating conditions. And this is where you put load banks in your data center so that you test against load so that you can see, can you get the power in there, can you get the cooling in there, get the heat out of that data center.
Actually, when we started one of the buildings, we started the amount of warranty period just after the integrated system.
Okay, it depends on, yes.
Because then you really know under all conditions.
How many of you can say you honestly did a full integrated system test? When we come in and do our functional test for uptime, we can tell you pretty quick whether you did or not. This slide's probably getting kind of old. We show this every time because we showed it for training, we've showed it for everything else. But your commissioning program increases, the comprehensiveness of it increases as you go up in tiers. Just think about this integrated system testing for tier 4. Drive you nuts with it. Of all the things that you got to check that it works and the fault tolerance of the things.
Can you imagine the level, the volume of fuel?
A lot of work.
It'll take you 1 or 2 weeks.
Yeah, people that think a system integrated test is a one-day event. No. Commissioning is weeks, months on a data center. It's not a one-day, one-week thing. If you call us up and say you did all your commissioning, you're done in 1 week, there's no way you did a full system integrated test. Julie has special customers that do that to us all the time, right? Who should be involved in commissioning? This we kind of set down the design engineer, the owner IT group, owner M&O group, contractors, the commissioning agent. Everybody starts playing in the planning process, planning, level 1 commissioning, 2, 3, 4. What's interesting is, look at where we believe you should bring in the M&O team, at least for the last 2. That's their opportunity to work on their MOPs. That's their opportunity to play with the equipment without impacting operational IT equipment, so on and so forth. Yes?
Why design engineer excludes from level 2? In Russia it's impossible, I think.
Is there receipt installation pre-functional testing?
Yeah, it's usually not, that's usually done by the contractor that comes in, but it's okay for them to be there, but in most cases the designer's not there when this stuff shows. Okay, but as you can see, look, involvement all along. Commissioning agent is involved the whole way. Commissioning benefits the L&M team. Best possible resource for on-the-job training. Little or no risk to the IT environment. Great opportunity for them to ask questions to the factory reps and people that are out there doing the commissioning. That's the best time for them to learn all the little ins and outs about all the different equipment. Great opportunity to develop, test MOPs, SOPs, and EOPs. When you really think about it, the scripts that you put together for an integrated system test are very similar to the scripts you'd have for MOPs and SOPs. Why not just combine that together in one effort?
Actually, many vendors have, as part of startup service, the customer and a group of engineers from customer, maintenance engineers from customer, got trained on how to switch on, switch off, bypass, and so on.
Right. Commissioning documentations, all levels of commissioning need to be well documented. This documentation is what you have to the data point for you to compare to in the future when you have problems. What were we able to achieve during commissioning? We should be able to get that now. What has changed? This is where you document. We're talking about what's the standard configuration. This is where you can get all of that information. As you're doing the testing, you're going to determine what's the standard configuration of everything in your data center. It's a great opportunity to pick that data up. So kind of a summary, you need to have those supported specialty spaces. Topology and enhancements are good to have. Yes, you may only have fault-tolerant electrical system in your tier 3, but it's a good thing to have. It's important. Ease of maintenance, have the infrastructure to support the other things. And can't put stop it enough, the importance of commissioning. Have an intensive commissioning program, because what you're going to do is find those problems, break those pieces of equipment up front, get all the bugs out of that equipment before you go operational with your computer equipment. Any questions on building characteristics?
David, if it's possible, one more time, one clause is not clear. Exhausting points.
What we're saying there is, when you design a data center, design it so that you run out of power, cooling, and space at the same time. If you design twice the power cooling that you need, you're just wasting money.
I see. To keep balance between the
keep a balance.
Balance between different parts of infrastructure.
I'll tell you what we do if it's okay with